say I can count the number of times I had sex in that marriage. And this is, I think, what many people don't understand, that how can a man deny a wife sex? But it's happening a lot. Even when we're having issues and we had approached family members on his side, you can imagine telling your mother-in-law that your son doesn't give me sex. So those are the things you battle with. And you know, now as a woman, you start feeling unworthy. Yeah, because if I'm not, is it I'm not attractive to him? Is it I'm not? So it's not a matter of, I think I saw people saying, oh, you must have done this and that. You must have. Well, they said, first of all, she loves sex a lot. This is why her marriage broke. Or how many times did you want it to? You know, they want to see the details. Eh? How did you even have children if you are not having sex? So with time, you realize you owe no one an explanation for your own story. I think that liberation of finding my voice also meant that even if you judge me, it's not who you call me, it's what I respond to. I wear quite a number of hats, but I say all of it is coming together through the conversations. So that's what I like to describe. I'm evolving in terms of my brand, the Amakove brand. And the Amakove brand is about conversations that inspire people to do better, to live better, and to be better. But in terms of career, I'm a medical doctor who doesn't see patients, so don't send your don't send your people to me. Then I'm running 3 businesses right now. I have a travel platform that's Wanderlust Diaries, again born from my passion for travel. It's a destination marketing organization as well as the Voice of Travelers. Then the second one is domestic worker placement agency. So I'm very passionate about bringing the professionalism and dignity back to domestic work. So that's in the care economy. Then the third one is a mentorship business for doctors. So it's called Beyond the Stethoscope. Oh yeah, and recently the other day we had a function where I put together a whole music band that's made up of doctors only. So that's where I am at now, and I document my journeys, my ups, my downs. It's scary, especially in this time of the economy, but for me it's satisfying. And because I know who I am and the kind of things that drive me and give me passion, I sacrifice luxury for that passion. I guess I've always been a talkative person. Growing up in a family of 8, and I'm the 7th born. So if you don't talk, you're never noticed. So I think that's where but my mom also, I mean, everyone in our house is talkative. Maybe the brothers are more quiet. But I think over time that that talking was perceived as negative. And so at some point, I felt like I was, stuck in a box, so to speak. I didn't know, but I knew that I have things to say, I have things to write about. And like that ability to do those things was like, when you're married, you need to behave in a certain way. When you're a Christian, you need to behave in a certain way. So there are always rules. When you're a medical doctor, you need to behave, dress in a certain way. And it was almost like something within me was stifled. So I guess I found my voice, so to speak, in my writing, because I write a lot. And the writing, somehow for people, it speaks to them. And I've met quite a number of people who are like, we thought you're louder than this. We thought you're bigger. We thought you're an angry person or an aggressive person. And I think that's because maybe the words portray a louder person. Because I tackle different topics. I tackle topics on sex, topics on parenting, topics on career, on relationships, mostly based on what I'm going through. But sometimes we get people writing to me and saying, please share this for me so that I hear people's opinions. And over time, that writing now, because the platform that I use a lot is Facebook. So over time, that writing has garnered a following of people who come and, they're very objective. I learn a lot from the writing. So sometimes I'm just posing a simple problem or a simple issue that I'm facing. And it's amazing the kind of solutions when you have sober-minded people sharing. Yeah, so I think I've always been an activist, so to speak. I've always questioned why should things be the way they are. But then education, especially the 844 system, which some of us went through, taught you to take whatever you're given and then put it back out in the exams or whatever. So you didn't really have a very analytical kind of mindset. But I'd say maybe my turning point was when I struggled with my relationship, my marriage. And in my head, I was like, but I've checked all these boxes that society gave me. So I tried to do this, I tried to do this, I've done this, I've done that. Yet I'm not feeling like I'm still wondering why, perhaps, let's say, I am excelling at work. And then at home, I'm not supposed to have an opinion on certain things, or it's not a mutual discussion, that it's assumed that maybe one party knows better because of their gender. So within that space of the relationship going through some turmoil, I went through some counseling. And in that counseling, I remember, and it's very hard for doctors to go through counseling because then you're accepting almost that you have a problem and you're supposed to be the healer. How are you being the one who's sick? So it's through that the therapist was like, you are portraying like you're very strong outside because you're still putting this face or this mask that things are okay, but deep inside you're crashing. And they're like, you have to examine yourself. Why do you feel that you need the approval or affirmation of people to be yourself or to be what they want you to be? So that sent me to a state of self-reflection. And I remember one friend of mine is on who came one of the days and she's like, Liz, you used to be, anyone who calls me Liz is someone who who knew me before social media. So Liz, you used to make your face, used to make your hair, used to be this very vibrant person in campus. And now I'm seeing a very different person. And I'm putting it very mildly. She was very blunt. That's her nature. And I want to appreciate that you need certain people to give you that train check without you feeling that you have to please them. So she's that kind of a person. And that put me on a reality check because I said, yeah, I used to travel. I used to make my nails. I used to make my hair. I used to enjoy going out. So what has changed? So I think that started a spiral of self-reflection. And my aha moment came when one of the personality tests that I took on, it's a Myers-Briggs. I hear the professionals don't see it as because I think it was a mother and daughter who cooked up that personality test. But for me, it just checked all the boxes. And I was like, I'm not weird. I'm not weird to want to follow certain passions, to want to be a creative, yet I'm a doctor, to want to rescue the world because I'm always taking up one cause or another. In fact, the term that my personality is given is called a campaigner. And campaigners are activists. They're the people who, like, there's something wrong, we need to fix it. But the good thing with that test, it also gives you the blind spots of your personality. And I think that was also an eye-opener because it, like, some of my blind spots would be that once something has lost its shine, then I get bored. We are easily bored. We are like restless people. And yet there are some chores or there are some responsibilities, especially at work, that require you to do some mundane tasks like writing reports. I hate writing reports. ChatGPT has come to save us on that. Analytical, like going into the details. Yeah, so I'm not someone who loves details, and so one of the things I learned to do was to put the less attractive things on my to-do list. That's to do it when I'm energetic, especially in the mornings, and then now the shinier things, the fun things, to do it when my energies have gone down. But once I got that and I realized, hey, so there are people who are like me. I mean, and it's okay to say, pursue, let's say, travel as a passion, or it's okay to speak up. It's okay to pick a cause and run with it. And this is why I think I am starting foundation for families that have multiples. I'm starting one for families that have preemies. So then it's explained why, because people would ask me, you're doing so many things, but I'm comfortable doing them. It's just that now I need someone to help me now execute them. Yeah, and see them to the end. And that's what I used to struggle with. So you see, to someone else, it looks, everything is haphazard. And I usually tell people there's they say there's an order in the disorder. Like even my place when you come, I mean, my office has many things going on. Even my laptop I can have like 10 tabs open and I'm working on them. And I hate that button called restart. Then you lose all those buttons. And I'm like, oh my goodness. But once I've lost, I say, okay, it's gone. I'll never pick it again because I can't remember which tabs I'd opened. But within that space of the chaos that others see it's chaos, I know where exactly something is. And so when you come and order it, then I'm like, now where did I put? And I'll remember it like 2 weeks later. I'm like, there was a card that I picked on a certain event and I'd placed it in this place, but they've all been bundled up and taken somewhere. So I learned to accept myself, which took a while because I kept on hearing from others that no, you need to be neater, you need to be less loud, you need to. And I'm trying those you need tos, but I'm seeing my joys being taken away from me. So with that reflection, then I started working on the blind spots, of course, but also I started embracing the things that people feel, they make me different, and turning it into something that has a positive influence on others. So, for example, my writing, oh, you're writing, you're exposing your children, you're exposing your family, you're exposing yourself, you're a doctor, you shouldn't post a photo of yourself in a bikini. But I'm in the beach and I'm in a bikini and I love my body. At that time, I could wear a bikini. Now I don't know whether I can wear one. So, and I want to show the world I am in a bikini. So what's the issue? So I guess once I got that aha moment, I'm like, you know what? I got this phrase called saying, do you, the world will adjust. So that became my mantra. And I say, as long as I'm not hurting someone else, I'm not infringing on someone else's freedom or rights, then I do it. So speaking about my marriage, I've written about it, at least certain sections of it. So I got married in 2006, and I guess there were red flags right along. But when you're in that space, because again, I was checking boxes, yeah, that society gave me, because society said, go to school up to this age, let's say 18 years, then go to university, then get a job, and then settle down and get married. So I was following the check boxes. And being a good student of life, I tried to excel in everything, especially when you've been raised by Madam Christine Wala, my late mom. You have no room for mediocrity. So there were certain things that were there even before marriage that were shouting red. But you say, you can fix it. Again, my personality is Madam Fix It. And I tried fixing them. And the one I wasn't able to fix, because it wasn't for me to fix, it was for the other party to fix. So within the marriage, then these things that I ignored started. I mean, they were still present because they've not gone away. And I think that's when I started now, maybe my third, I don't know. Actually, it's from the beginning. But it's a nagging thing, but you stifle it or you ignore it and cover it with something else. So for me, what I covered, those things were excelling in my work. And I did very well, and I got very well-paying jobs. And so money was not an issue. And then I had children, and then the focus now shifts to raising children because I have a son and I have triplet daughters, and the triplets demanded a lot from me. So days move on. You're covering these flags with money. You're covering them with your parenting. You're covering, and then it reaches a point where you have no more cover, and so these things now pop out. And I guess for me it happened when the kids were now going to school, because now they're not as dependent, and you're doing very well at work. And then now I got into a very well-paying job, and then in 1.5 years I'd lost that job through the politics that happened within the organization. So suddenly you had some significance from work that has been taken away from you. Remember, at home, you've lost that significance in terms of you're a wife, yes, but the roles of a wife or the favors or the rights of a wife, you're not getting them. Yeah, you're not financially, sexually. So you're a wife in terms of a title. Then you're a mother in terms of a title, but now the children are independent. They've gone to school, so they're not as dependent on you. Then now you are a career woman, and then you've lost that also. And of course, losing that job meant money also went. And that was in 2013. So I guess we'd been married by then, maybe 6 years or so. And I think that's where the cracks now started showing, because the covers that were there are no longer working, or they are no longer there. And then it started hitting me that these things, if, there's no marriage, that you've just been moving along, at least on my end, the things that I thought marriage would give me were not. Whatever society said marriage should give a woman, I did not get. Then there's also the sexual fulfillment in a marriage that wasn't there for me. Yeah, I would say I can count the number of times I had sex in that marriage. I think sex was almost used as a tool to, the way you'd withdraw privileges. That's how the sex was used. So it was sexual abuse actually. Now that I know the terms, because it's given when someone wants to give it, or it is also denied as a way to punish you. And this is, I think, what many people don't understand, that how can a man deny a wife sex? But it's happening a lot. So when I started speaking up, that's now recently, so many women came out. And I remember even when we were having issues and we had approached family members on his side, you can imagine telling your mother-in-law that your son doesn't give me sex, doesn't fulfill me sexually. It's not even fulfillment, it's just not there. So those are the things you battle with. And now as a woman, you start feeling unworthy. Yeah, because if I'm not, is it I'm not attractive to him? Is it I'm not? But when you reflect, it's been, those things were there even before marriage. So it's not a matter of, I think I saw people saying, oh, you must have done this and that, you must have. And again, that's what society does. It tries to put the survivor in a responsible position, that there's something you did, that a man cannot not want sex. So these are the boxes. These are the boxes that I thought marriage would come with, that were not coming with. The other box is money or provision, and not in terms of being taken care of. Actually, when I reflect, I don't think there's a man who's ever taken care of me. In terms of the way I hear people, oh, someone has been bought for this and that. I've never had. But for me, I think I covered that because, one, my love language is not gifts. So because we grew up in a very big family, peasant family. And so going to school, being dressed, and having food, that's our love language. You were loved. Of course, our parents rarely, I don't think my parents ever told us, I love you. So I didn't grow up with expectations of, I remember I didn't even celebrate a birthday for the 18 years that I was under that house. So material things really are neither here nor there for me. But I was also taught to be the best I can be in terms of career, in terms of education. And so naturally, those ones came with good jobs. They came with career progression and whatnot. So that came with money. So in a way, I also saw my mom being the provider, despite my dad working. So both of them were teachers. And my mom taught in a primary school, my dad taught in a high school. But I do not remember a single item, except one pair of shoes that my dad ever bought for me. And school fees also, my mom is the one who used to buy. So I saw my mom providing. And so a woman providing was natural. But I didn't know that the resentment that she had until when my marriage broke and I went home alone now without children to just hang out with my mom for 2 weeks. And we had this mother-daughter talk, and we shared very deep stuff. And I realized that she really had a resentful life. That, you see, she didn't show it to us because she was busy raising 8 children, and she did it very well. We all went to very good schools and very good and university, and basically everyone is doing well according to society. But I didn't know the damage, because we are told our mothers, our parents stuck it out. But if you go to have real conversations with them, you may be surprised that some are not even sleeping in the same room. But there's still a couple you get. Others just go abroad and visit and go. Anyway, coming back to that. So the modeling of parenting, the modeling of marriage that I saw was a woman providing. And so naturally, when the guy wasn't able to provide for whatever reason, I stepped up. And so when I reflect, I realize I've always paid, excuse me, I've always paid rent, I've always paid school fees, I've always paid. So I've always paid. And it didn't hit me because the resentment maybe was there in the background, because you also want a break, isn't it? But because I didn't know any other model of marriage, I thought it was natural that, we are supposed to be a tag team. And you keep on saying, okay, this is a season, it's gonna pass. But that season did not pass for 6-7 years. So when the job that I had went, then that cover of financial resources also went. So you realize now you can't, because I was jobless for 4 months or so. And when I left that organization, they gave me a settlement. So that settlement took us for some months. Excuse me. So you don't realize that you're stretching out in terms of resources until I took up another position. Now, the position that I took up, because I'm a fixer, I really enjoyed it. But it was paying me what I used to save after paying all the bills. But I'm telling you, on my CV, it's something that I am very proud of, because it exposed me, it gave me authority. I was creating out of nothing. And that, on reflection, is a space that I enjoy in terms of work. But it was not paying as much. And then the landlord called, and then the school called, and then by then we had gone through a separation. And when we went through the separation, we had a small committee where, we agreed on who's meeting what responsibilities. And I wonder why I thought that those responsibilities would be met when they had never been met. And the responsibilities were about rent and about school fees. So one of these days, I am going about my fixing job, the other one that I enjoy doing with little money. And then I get a call from the landlord, and they're like, hey, it's because they didn't know that we had separated. Oh, I'm looking for so-and-so. Rent hasn't been paid. And that's 1 month. Then we were like on a 23rd or 26th of the next month. Then the school sends an SMS, and now I forget that SMS. I think I still have it on my phone. If I didn't go with the other phone. Don't bring your children to school tomorrow. And then the same week, someone calls from an investment, some property we had put down in Kiambu. And they're like, oh, we are auctioning your property because you've not paid, I think, infrastructure fees. And it was like 1.2 million, the infrastructure fee alone. My body just crashed, but I didn't know. Because remember, all this time I'm putting a mask, everything is fine. Even the separation, very few people knew about it. Until one day, I remember building up to the separation, then it was, you go to church. So you used to go to church, two of you and the children. And our children were quite a spectacle, because then there were 4 of them. They were in prams and whatnot, and you're carrying all this food. So it was a spectacle getting into church. And then suddenly I'm alone with this spectacle of mine, but by then they were walking. I mean, they were independent. And for a whole year, because I used to sit right in front, nobody bothered to ask how come we are not seeing you with so-and-so. And that time we're not separated. He just never used to come to church. I remember so after church I'd take the children out or whatever other things we do on Sunday. And then someone started commenting and saying, how come the father is not in these pictures? Then I realized, actually, he has never actually been in many of those pictures. Even when he was with us, he has never been in those pictures. And subconsciously, it just happened that I would be the one with the children because he's an introvert, he'd prefer to stay at home. So one day I just woke up and put I took a picture of my hand that didn't have a ring and put it on Facebook and say, there, it's done. So very few people even understood the cryptic nature of that post. But that's how I announced to the world that I am no longer married. But going back to now the crashing, because I am a fixer and I cannot fix this. Because this is another person. I've tried fixing, it's not working. And I think for me that was like, why? Because our personalities, we have to give us something, tell us we can do something, and we'll do it and take pictures and show you. So without understanding that there are things you can't fix. You can fix a work situation, but you can't fix a human being. They need to want to fix themselves. And I think that's what I really struggled most with, was understanding why can't I rectify this position. It wasn't that this person has an issue. It was, how come I can't fix this? And until I realized that I had to understand what situations I can fix and what I can't. So I just got into, I had a fever of 39.2. I had a pain on my right side and I just got sick. I had to be admitted for a whole week in one of these big hospitals. And they're checking and they're running tests and they do all these x-rays and all these blood works and they cannot pick anything. Like, I used to be in so much pain and had to sleep under the hospital bed, like you're looking for something to clutch to distract you from the pain. And they're giving me these painkillers and it's not going. So it comes in seasons like this. The fever is not going down. They can't find any infection. So I told them, since you're giving me oral drugs, just discharge me after a week. So I got discharged. And I remember I was dating by then. I started dating during the separation. Because remember, all this time I've come from a space where I see myself as worthless because you're not, your husband doesn't find you attractive enough to have sex with you. Then you get back into this, and I had dated before him. So you get back to this space and men are finding you quite a catch. So it was like, hiya. So the problem is not me, actually. So I started then I started dating and when I got discharged, I went to stay with my partner that time, my boyfriend. And then I collapsed in his house. After sex, of course. So, so I told him, he knew I'd been in hospital. So I would jikaza, because I think coming from a space where I was really starved of sex, I think now I went the opposite direction. I said, now I'm making up for what the locust stole. So I got there and I told him, don't take me back to that hospital that I was in. Take me to this second one, then call my brother. Because, but then who is your next of kin when you're separated? You can't call your ex. So call my brother, tell them they'll come and help me with the admission. So my brother came and I got admitted again. Remember, I was discharged Friday. Sunday, I'm back in another hospital because I've not sorted what is ailing me. And it's the same thing. They ran the same scans, the same what. I was subjected to a lot of radiology, actually. But they can't pick anything. And it's still that fever and the pain. So I remember my house girl came to visit. And she told me, Mama, so you're going to die and leave your children. You have to snap out of this. But then she's the one who did, with one sentence, change my perspective. Because I reflected on myself and I said, you know what? What's ailing me? And what was ailing me at that time was all these financial things that had come at the same time, because I was feeling like, why didn't he settle those things when he said he was gonna do it, including the money, the 1.2 M. It was money that we had at the time when we needed to pay, and I thought it had been paid. So I said, okay, so my biggest problem right now is all these bills that are coming to me, and I'm not able to remember, I'm in this job that I'm enjoying, but really not paying well. So what's my solution? My solution is, one, to get out of this hospital, and two, to go and resign and look for a job that will pay me better, because I knew I could get jobs that would pay me better. And let me tell you, Justus, with that, the pain went. Like someone had turned off a tap. I tell people, and it's like a miracle, yeah? And that's because I just changed my mindset. I just said, you know what? I got so you see, I'm a fixer. I got the fix for my problem. And the pain went, and the fever stopped soaring, and I got discharged. And in my recuperation, I wrote my resignation letter. And because I had to give 3 months notice, so now I started applying for jobs. And luckily I got a job that wasn't paying as much as the others, but much better than this one, that within the first month of resignation. And then I said, okay, there's some immediate needs that need to be paid, like the landlord needs to be paid, school fees needs to be paid, and that farm. So I got my siblings, I told them the situation. Of course, they knew. So they rallied up. So I remember my sister sorted out the rent or the school fees, one of those two. Then I had a friend in the US, and she knew my story. And she told me, Liz, here is 300,000 shillings. It's not, and 300,000 those days was a lot of money. It's not a loan. Sort out whatever needs to be sorted out. I'll never forget her. And then my brothers now, I told them, okay, I'm going to refinance my SACCO loan, get that money, pay it off, but I'll need help to pay the premiums until I'm stable. And they did that. They stood in for me for 6 months or so. So with that, when I moved to the other organization, the first thing I did with my first salary was to look for a lawyer. And so I got a lawyer, and I said, I need to, because we were separated, we're not divorced. I said, I need to now do it formally so that I focus, because with that thing hanging around my head, then I can't focus. So the lawyer came, got the divorce, and within that, I also knew I am on my own financially. So how do I, and anyway, I've been on my own financially for a while. So how do I now focus on, I'm here raising 4 children alone. So that's how I got the divorce, and also just decided to raise my children alone. So now I wrote about my experience, especially the divorce, because it wasn't very easy. But I'd write it from a point of therapy for me. And then I realized people are relating to it, because I did it in I don't know when last I visited. I have what's this site called for blogging? Okay, it will come to me. But there's a site where you can have a blog and write about things. So I started writing there. I started writing pieces of articles around my life, my divorce. I'd write about me sitting in a courtroom, because I love observing people and writing. And I remember writing a certain piece that I think guys really found very moving. And it was called Then and Now. I think the piece is still there. WordPress is the site. Yeah. So Liz Wala wordpress.com. I think that's my site. So then and now, comparing the wedding day in terms of the number of people who came, in terms of the joyous occasion, in terms of, the basically the celebration around it, and then the court situation where you are alone. I used to go to court alone, and you're in front of a judge. It is a closed door session. There's a Bible, so there are Bibles. I compared the Bibles on both sides. One is used to join, another one is used to break, and also just the words that are pronounced. So I think that really hit people. There is also one I wrote about custody, but now the custody was more on third party. So because children's cases were heard in public. So just looking at a man who's struggling to be with their child, and then there's another case of a man who's running away from responsibility. So I think now those for me were a lot of therapy in terms of expressing the emotions I was going through. And that's where now people started realizing, oh, there are things that women or men go through that are not spoken about. Yeah, but I think the biggest thing is the stereotypes that we've put of what marriage should be. And then when it's not, no one actually has one of the stereotypes is that men are always the ones to blame. Another stereotype is that men will always want sex. Another stereotype is men will always provide. Another stereotype is women will always love being homemakers. Like me, I enjoyed my work and I delegated my home chores to nannies who are well equipped to do it. So again, that was another struggle, like especially now that you have triplets. I was traveling at 5 months. I was out working, coming back, finding one refuses to breastfeed. I'm like, okay, cheers, you use the bottle. We'll continue this too. Then I traveled again at 8 months. Came back, the second one refused to breastfeed. And I'll tell the other one, I'll not be breastfeeding you alone. So you also go to the bottle. So I think there's that stereotype that you should now be a homemaker, you should be a housewife, there are people like us who love our careers and who can, I guess, juggle both. But it's okay. And also the fact that men cannot be house husbands. There are men who prefer to be more at home than working. So I think, was divorce easy? No. And again, that is the stereotype that people feel divorce is the easier way out. Divorce is costly, number one, and costly in terms of finances. But also, number two, it's emotionally draining because especially in our courts, and I had really hoped that the amendment to the Marriage Act to allow people to mutually separate and divorce, would go through, but it was shut down. So now you have to prove cruelty. And in that proving cruelty, people really write nasty things. And I think by the time you're done, you've like your insides are all out, especially for third parties to analyze. So divorce is not an easy thing. Plus, that's just the legal act. And there's the reality where you have to start a life without the other person. You have to explain to the children what's going on. You have to look at certain things depending on how the children's, because you have to go through 3 courts if you have children and marital property. So you do divorce court, then if you have any marital property, you do marital property court. Those are 2 courts. And then children's court. And children's court doesn't require the other 2. It's independent. So those 3 courts, at each of them, if you need legal representation, that's costly for each of them. But it is the stigma. I think for me, the biggest thing is the stigma that comes with being divorced. And that's why I have this hashtag Single Lives Matter, because society expects you to be in a marriage situation. Yeah. So now you're not married, you're divorced, actually. It's different from, I think single people who've never been married are not as stigmatized as someone who's been married and then divorced. And that stigma cuts across even in the religious institutions. Like in some churches, you can't hold any leadership positions if you're divorced. So, so your life changes. Your friends sometimes some fear that you are a threat to their marriage. You've become an influence. You've become those people that women are warned that, oh, you should not hang. You're married. Why are you hanging around divorced women? So those things are real. But for me, I think my children they each processed it differently. They were young, but I explained to them that they're in no way the cause of the separation and divorce, but also that they'll have two homes, because that's a reality. There'll be times they'll be with their dad, there'll be times most of the time they'll be with me. And also not taking away their identity. For example, they still carry the surname, they still visit their paternal side of the relatives. So I really want that they shouldn't lose their identity based on a divorce. But what I did is that I started a group, again, being a fixer. I started a group on WhatsApp it's called Once Was. So for people who've been divorced or who are going through that journey. And it's a small group, we're like 60 of us or so, both men and women. And it's interesting to see how people's journeys have morphed. Because when it's fresh, people come in with a lot of anger, all the emotions of grief. And then you discuss, you share to the extent someone is comfortable. And you see guys now allowing co-parenting or going through an easier co-parenting phase. You see people getting back on their feet in terms of jobs or businesses. You see people dating again. People have remarried actually in the group and they're still within the group. Yeah, so it's been like 4 years or 5. And I think that's been my strongest support system. And that's because it's people who understand your journey. They have walked your journey. But also, we're not there for pity party. Yeah, so we tell you, okay, this has happened. You're not the first. You're not gonna be the last. What are you doing about it? What's within your sphere of influence? So that's been great. I've also had very great friends who've stuck around despite the stigma. Of course, my family, initially it was hard. They all processed differently. Of course, being someone who talks a lot, the assumption is that you are the cause of that. Because there are things I never used to share, especially on the sex bit. I've just started talking about the sex bit recently, because it's a very uncomfortable conversation, and people are not ready to accept that it happened to you. So they look at it like, no, you did something. You didn't serve him. You didn't. You see, this is my lived experience. Yeah. And I guess I don't know what I would be gaining from lying about certain things, but you make the survivor go through another round of, they're already feeling judged from whatever they went through. Then you make it go through. And I remember, yeah, when I had a discussion with one of the vloggers also, the same story. It was the same thing. They said, first of all, she loves sex a lot. This is why her marriage broke. Or how many times did you want it to? They want to see the details. How did you even have children if you are not having sex? So with time, you realize you owe no one an explanation for your own story. And you can talk about it as many times as possible. I get also this thing of, but it happened a long time ago. Why are you still talking about it? Why are you still talking about your divorce? Yeah. So you owe no one an explanation to your journey, to how you want to relive it, to how you want to move on, and to how you want to share your story, if at all you want to share, because not everyone shares. So I think that liberation of finding my voice also meant that even if you judge me, it's not who you call me, it's what I respond to. You'll never satisfy everyone. You're not ice cream. They say you'll never make everyone happy. And that's fine. So I'd like to encourage someone who's going through something that they fear people won't believe them. That you don't owe anyone an explanation. It's your journey. It's your lived experience. And yeah, if you need professional help, please seek. I did get professional help. But you should not be stifled. Don't be put in another box of how to respond to your situation. I don't know why we feel we are so entitled to telling people how to live. That entitlement is what really amuses me. I can post a very innocent thing and how it has spiraled into another tangent. You're just like, what? This is a conversation about a girl's trip to somewhere. It has become, now these people are spent cartridges, they're calling themselves girls and they're old. And I'm like, dude, I posted on my wall, I am enjoying my girls to trip out. I am calling myself a girl. If I want to call myself a girl, I'll call myself a girl. How is it your business to I don't know where people get the time and the energy to just go through people's profiles, take content, and now dissect it. It's a lot of work. So the part of the writing about my story has been about my relationships, and I've had many. And again, you're judged on how soon you should move on. You're judged on, like you see, I said I had a partner immediately, actually, even, yeah, the moment we decided we are separating, even when you're still in the house, I moved on. Because I said, and I tell people I never cheated in my marriage, never. And I had opportunity to, because remember, I had jobs that were traveling, and I mean, all you need is somewhere where no one knows you. But the day I said I'm gonna go, then I went. Because I told him, I said, I'm not getting this from you, so allow me to get it from anywhere else. And he said, go. And I went. And I did it very well. But so I write about my dating life. And that's because it's really, me, I'm dating. I'm not anti-men, and I don't know why people think I am anti-men. I love men a lot. So in that writing, I say I think people found permission to date. Yeah. So I'm like, you know what? You still have your needs. And if you like someone, why are you waiting for these stereotypes of, the Prince Charming is going to come, sweep you away? Those are Mills and Boone stories. You have to be, because people ask some of the female friends are like, how do you meet people? How do you start conversations? I say, I'm out there. I'm in social events. Of course, it feels nice to be approached and have that whole dance of flirting and whatnot. But it shouldn't always be the case. Like, some of us are old. We don't have time for flirting. If I like you and I want you, just be responsible and safe. So that's how I tell people, if you want someone, if this is what you want, put it out there. Or go look for it. I mean, and it's both men and women. So that's how Shoot Your Shot started. And people have found relationships. People have also been conned. because you're putting it out to a whole universe. So it has a lot. You have to do your diligence. But I tell people I've been conned in, relationships also without shooting my shot. So if you meet a conman, you'll meet a conman whether online or you'll meet a conman. Just be aware that there are conman and con women available. But I think it's just to break the stereotype that you need to sit and wait and be hunted, and men won't, a man won't feel they've done the job if they have not hunted you for whatever. Is it hunting? I'm like, at the end of the day, you're both looking for something. The route, the journey may be different, but the end game is the same. So that's how shoot your shot started. It's interesting though that when I started putting a charge to it, then Kenyans don't want to pay. I'm like, I am spending a whole Friday afternoon sifting through your many DMs, and there were many. There are like over 100 posting. Then people come. It's exhausting. It's an exhausting job. And remember me, I hate details. So, and you don't want me to earn from this. So we've seen a remarkable reduction in the number of shots when I put a cover charge to it. Yeah, but I think anyway, it helps to sift out people who are not serious. I was raised to do my best, to put my best in anything that I do. And so that comes with achievements. So I've backed a number of accolades. And initially, again, this is something I write about. Initially, I remember meeting my first boyfriend. I was 17. After high school. I finished high school at 16. So I met him at 16. Anyway, whichever age. Then I the way you meet after high school and you're exchanging, where did you go to school and whatnot. And I said my school because it's a school I went to. It's like saying it's raining, isn't it? And then apparently that is something that intimidated him. And he lied about the school that he went to match the profile of this other school of mine. But me, I took it as gospel truth because I trust, like we easily trust. So it means we are also easily conned. And it's later when I discovered that he didn't go to that school. And like it was perplexing to me because the school he went to was also a good school. And then for me, it wasn't like, it didn't matter. I wanted to know him as a person, not based on where he went to school or not. So then I realized, all these things you're achieving, there are men who are intimidated, about them. And so I started toning down in terms of speaking about what I've done. So even the school, I never used to mention it. Because if this other person felt they needed to lie because the school intimidated him, then since I'm in the dating space, let me tone down that one also. Then it got to medicine, and then you tone down about you're studying medicine. Then it got to career, and you tone down about even how much money you earn and whatnot. Until it hit me that, again, it's another box that I'm putting myself in because why would I reduce the things that I've achieved to make someone else comfortable? Yeah, and I think I remember one of these sayings, I don't know who said it. They said, don't remove your crown. It's now to queens like us. Don't remove your crown. Look for a man with bigger hands. Yeah. So, even writing my CV used to be a struggle Because now I'm like, yeah, now this, we did this, we achieved this. And then you suddenly realize whatever you're achieving, you're getting awards, you're getting recognized. So anyway, with all that introspection, I proudly state what I do. I proudly state what I drive. Oh yes, there's Nyamalo. Nyamalo is my, for those who don't know, Nyamalo is my old Pajero. That's very manual that I really love. And there's also that thing of women should not be driving. How is a woman driving a manual car? Also, who bought for you that car? When I traveled with my daughter to the US for a competition, it was also who paid for you the tickets? How did you finance that trip? So there's this perception of, you cannot do it as a woman. Yeah. Why are you living in a suburb? How are you affording? Your children are going to these schools. How are they? Where do you get school fees from? Because they can't fathom that you are single-handedly raising your children and you're not being financed by someone else. So I started now talking more about when it's necessary to talk about them. I stopped that modesty shit. And I tell people, be proud of what whether it is. So I do this thing. I say celebrate your small wins into as big wins. So every single, and we know with that you start getting into an attitude of appreciating small steps that lead to bigger steps. So for example, if this week you just went through the week, got to maybe nail one client, celebrate it. If you landed that job that you've been working so hard for, celebrate it. So with that celebration, you start giving yourself permission to appreciate the hard work you've put in, but also to start talking about it when it's necessary. Because I realize my preparation for interviews would be really like, how far should I go in terms of speaking about what I've achieved? So with coaching, because I went through some executive coaching, with coaching, oh, let me tell you, you should see my CV right now. You would think I am going on to the next president of Kenya, but maybe I am. So I think it's a very female thing to do, but I also see a lot of that insecurity or imposter syndrome with also men. So I tell people, you know what, those things that you want to achieve and you've achieved, celebrate them and start talking about them. In fact, I tell people in business, because I do business, talk about your business. You're the biggest marketer. So if you make the best buns, if you feel your buns are the best, talk about it. Point it out. Yeah. Don't wait for a client to come and say, oh yeah, I went to this place and I ate very good buns. Of course, that helps. But if you don't believe in your own stuff, in your own achievements, then who is gonna believe in that? Yeah. So you achieve, and then now for me, my mom had set very high standards for us. So you achieve a 90%, you're told, but why did so-and-so achieve 95? You get. So you get that thing of your good is not enough. And you need to be the best. And I know the best is the enemy of good. So you think you have to check all the boxes for you to now say, I'm an expert in this, or I've excelled in this and that. No. Yeah, so thank you for, first of all, this platform to talk about the Amakove Wala show. So the Amakove Wala show is an elevation of the conversations that I've been having on my social media sites into basically a different medium. It's a show that has an audience, it has panelists, and it also has a prepackaged story. The reason why we've gone that way is because not everyone is on social media, and then especially not everyone is on Facebook. Plus, there are things that can be lost in translation when you write. And also because there's none like this before. So I hope that through my lifestyle and conversations, I'll inspire ordinary people to be better, to do better, to live better. So this show is tackling those uncomfortable conversations. So I did not say controversial, they're uncomfortable. And to let people know that this is reality. It's reality for many people. One is to say that this is something people are going through, but two, to also encourage that person who may think they're alone, that these things happen. But we're not doing sob stories. So even in this session that we've shot, we said the Amakove Wala show, you'll never carry a handkerchief. Yeah. So there's going to be humor in it. We are not coming to open up wounds, so to speak, but we are coming to, state facts and also see things very differently. So we'll have controversial, as people call it, but we'll have uncomfortable conversations about parenting, about businesses failing, about diaspora lives, the good, the bad, the ugly. We have conversations lined up about life after 40, dating an empowered woman. So the main reason why I say the show is not about sob stories, it's because sometimes my life is viewed as I'm out to share things that have failed. And again, I say this is a perception of people because I share a lot of what has succeeded also in my life. But because the failures or the challenges, let me call them, trigger more either pain or more reactions or responses, then that's what people see. In fact, there's a time I was told, oh, you're the one who talks about marriages and telling people to get out of marriages and to do what. So there's a certain perception that comes with when you talk about things that people aren't ready to listen to. And so I want to break that. I want to break that and say, now I've told you about my life and what I'm going through, and I'll keep on telling you more about. But now I'm bringing you people who are actually experiencing some of the things that we think is theory or we think it's content creation, yet it's people living this every single day, and people who have overcome, and people who are looking for answers. They may not even have overcome. So it's your everyday person. So that's the punchline, that I'm going to impact one life from the conversations that are there, positively impact one life from the conversations that come from there. I think because our media is also full of, there's a lot of attention for followers, and people create content just to attract followership. So a lot of the content that we see are made up. People portray a certain lifestyle which in reality they're not really living. So there's a lot of pressure to be, or to live in a certain way because a certain person does that. So I want to bring that to your everyday conversations, your everyday reality on employment, on work, on relationships, and so we move away from the fallacy that is social media. Because social media can put unnecessary pressure on you, yet the person who's portraying that kind of lifestyle is struggling also. Yeah, we also have a lot of negativity that's being peddled. We've seen fights where, people are busy following fights. And I'm like, what are you feeding your mind? Every time you're consuming this content, you're starting to believe certain things. We have toxic feminism, we have toxic masculinity, and people are starting to believe these things. And I think I really get worried about the generations that are coming, because we are slowly deviating from intellectual discourse into quick 3-minute dancing or parading our vehicles or where we stay or whatnot. Where's the intellectual conversation headed to? So I think we are getting into a generation where we are consuming very fast, short, and very, in my opinion, very shallow discourses. I think we are losing our ability to be objective and to have intellectual conversations. So I hope that the Amakove Wala show would maintain that. You know what? I want a place where I'm being challenged intellectually.